tried to start kick him. My kick just go to the halfway, and he fit already on my face. Like that. I'm just like that. Then, what do you say? I said, you're really fast.
Repeated the same stories, the same rumors, and the same legends. But now, at 74 years old, Sammo Hung is finally sharing what he witnessed with his own eyes. And what he says changes everything. Their relationship was nothing like the world imagined. Behind the cameras, there were moments of respect, shocking surprises, and one unforgettable encounter that Sammo never forgot. So, what really happened between these two martial arts legends? Stay with us, because the truth is far more incredible than the rumors ever were. Chapter 1. The Rumor That Refused to Die. For decades, one story followed Sammo Hung everywhere he went. No matter where he traveled or who interviewed him, the same question always came up. What was Bruce Lee really like? Most of the time, Sammo would smile, give a short answer, and move on. He never wanted to turn private memories into headlines. But as the years passed, the rumors only grew bigger. One rumor refused to disappear. People claimed Bruce Lee and Sammo Hung secretly hated each other. Some said they were jealous rivals, fighting for the title of Hong Kong's greatest martial artist. Others even claimed they had a real backstage fight that ended with one man humiliating the other. The story spread through newspapers, magazines, internet forums, and later, social media. After being repeated for so many years, many fans accepted it as fact. But there was one problem. Almost none of it came from people who were actually there. Now, at 74 years old, Sammo Hung is finally looking back on those years with a different perspective. Instead of talking about myths, he wants people to understand the real Bruce Lee, the man behind the legendary image. According to Sammo, the truth wasn't built on anger or rivalry. It was built on something much stronger: respect. Before Bruce Lee became a worldwide icon, and before Sammo Hung became one of Hong Kong's greatest action directors, they were simply two young martial artists trying to push themselves further than anyone else. They challenged each other. They learned from each other. And they inspired each other in ways that very few people ever knew. Their story was never about proving who was stronger. It was about two talented men chasing perfection in different ways. That is why Sammo believes the public has misunderstood their relationship for decades. The headlines focused on conflict, because conflict sells. But the real story is far more interesting than any rumor ever printed. It is a story filled with unforgettable moments, quiet lessons, and genuine admiration between two men whose names would become legendary. And it all began with one unexpected meeting. Chapter 2. The Day Sammo Hung Tested Bruce Lee. By the early 1970s, Bruce Lee had returned to Hong Kong with a dream that many people thought was impossible. After struggling to find leading roles in Hollywood, he was determined to prove that an Asian actor could become an international star. At the same time, Sammo Hung was already earning respect inside Hong Kong's film industry. He had built a reputation as a skilled stuntman, fight choreographer, and martial artist who never backed away from a challenge. It didn't take long before their paths crossed on the set of Fist of Fury. Everyone on the set was talking about Bruce Lee. They couldn't stop talking about his speed. Some claimed he was faster than anyone they had ever seen. Others believed the stories were exaggerated to build his reputation. Sammo wasn't interested in rumors. He wanted to see the truth for himself. One afternoon, while the crew was waiting for the next scene, Sammo walked over to Bruce Lee with a smile. He asked him a simple question. "Are you really as fast as everyone says?" Bruce didn't get offended. He didn't argue. Instead, he smiled back and said something that surprised everyone nearby. "Why don't you find out?" Sammo agreed. He expected a friendly demonstration. He thought Bruce would throw a slow kick so he could react. But before Sammo could even raise his hands, it happened. Bruce Lee's foot was suddenly right in front of his face. The kick stopped only inches away. There was no warning, no wasted movement. 1 second Bruce was standing still. The next second, the kick was already there. Sammo froze. He later admitted he had never seen anyone move that fast before. The speed wasn't just impressive, it completely changed his expectations of what the human body could do. Instead of feeling embarrassed, Sammo laughed. He respected what he had just witnessed, and Bruce respected Sammo for having the confidence to ask. That brief moment became the beginning of something much bigger than either of them expected. There was no rivalry, no anger, no secret fight behind the cameras, only two martial artists pushing each other to become better. From that day forward, Sammo paid close attention whenever Bruce practiced. He watched how he moved, how he timed every strike, and how he made difficult techniques look effortless. Without realizing it, Sammo wasn't just watching a movie star. He was watching a man who would change martial arts cinema forever. Chapter 3. The Friendship That Changed Everything. After that unforgettable test of speed, something unexpected happened. Instead of becoming rivals, Bruce Lee and Sammo Hung grew closer. They shared the same passion for martial arts, but they also shared something even more important. They respected each other's talent. As they spent more time together on the set of Fist of Fury, Sammo began noticing the small details that made Bruce different from everyone else. It wasn't just his speed, it was the way he studied every movement, every camera angle, and every fight scene until it looked completely real. Bruce believed that every punch should have purpose, every kick should tell a story, and every fight should feel believable to the audience. Sammo admired that mindset. One thing especially caught his attention: Bruce Lee's incredible skill with the nunchaku. The weapon seemed almost impossible to control. In Bruce's hands, it moved so quickly that most people couldn't even follow it with their eyes. Many actors would have asked Bruce to teach them. But Sammo chose a different path. He carefully watched Bruce perform on set, paying close attention to every movement of his hands and wrists. He memorized each motion without saying a word. When filming ended for the day, Sammo went home. He picked up 2 wooden sticks. Then he started practicing. Again, and again, and again. For nearly 30 minutes, he repeated the same movements until everything finally clicked. The next time someone saw him using the nunchaku, they couldn't believe what they were watching. His movements looked smooth, fast, controlled. Another actor asked him an obvious question. "How many years did it take you to learn that?" Sammo smiled, then gave an answer that left everyone speechless. "About 30 minutes. People thought he was joking, but he wasn't. His success wasn't just the result of natural talent. It came from careful observation, discipline, and the inspiration he found in Bruce Lee's example. That moment also revealed something important about their friendship. There was no jealousy between them. Bruce never acted like his knowledge had to be protected. And Sammo never felt the need to compete. Instead, they pushed each other to improve. That rare kind of trust soon opened another incredible opportunity. When Bruce Lee began working on what would become the biggest movie of his career, he personally made sure Sammo Hung had a place beside him. It wasn't because Sammo was famous. It wasn't because he owed him a favor. It was because Bruce trusted his ability. That decision would place both men in one of the most legendary martial arts films ever made. And what happened on that movie set would prove just how deep their friendship had become. Chapter 4. The movie that proved their brotherhood. By 1973, Bruce Lee was no longer just a rising star. He was preparing for the film that would introduce him to millions of people around the world. That movie was Enter the Dragon. Bruce knew this wasn't just another martial arts film. It was his chance to prove that Asian actors could lead major international productions. Every scene mattered. Every movement had to be perfect. So when it came time to choose someone for the film's opening fight, Bruce didn't pick just anyone. He chose Sammo Hung. For Sammo, this was more than another acting job. It was a sign of complete trust. Bruce knew exactly how dangerous fight scenes could be. One mistake could cause a serious injury. That is why he wanted someone who understood timing, discipline, and control. The opening temple fight became one of the most memorable scenes in martial arts history. The two legends moved with incredible precision. Every punch looked real. Every kick landed at exactly the right distance. Every block happened at the perfect moment. To the audience, it looked like a real fight. But behind the scenes, it was built on trust. Many people assumed they spent weeks rehearsing every move. The truth was very different. According to Sammo, they sat together before filming, talked through the choreography, made a few small adjustments, and then stepped in front of the cameras. Their years of experience allowed them to understand each other almost instantly. When the director called action, everything flowed naturally. The fight combined speed, balance, throws, and submission techniques that were rarely seen in martial arts movies at the time. It felt fresh. It felt realistic. And decades later, many fans still consider it one of the greatest opening fights ever filmed. But something else surprised Sammo even more. Bruce Lee's personality completely changed the moment filming stopped. On camera, Bruce looked serious, focused, almost unstoppable. Off camera, he laughed with the crew, joked with friends, shared ideas, and treated the stunt team with respect. Sammo later remembered that Bruce wasn't trying to prove he was better than everyone else. He simply wanted every scene to be the best it could possibly be. Watching Bruce work up close taught Sammo lessons that stayed with him for the rest of his career. He noticed how Bruce carefully studied camera angles before every fight. He understood that timing could make a punch look twice as powerful. He believed that emotion was just as important as technique. Those ideas completely changed how Sammo later designed action scenes in his own films. Years after Bruce's passing, many of those same techniques could still be seen in Sammo's choreography. In many ways, Bruce's influence never disappeared. It simply lived on through the people who learned from him. For Sammo, Enter the Dragon was never just another movie. It became a reminder of a friendship built on respect, discipline, and a shared dream to change martial arts cinema forever. But just as Bruce Lee finally reached the biggest moment of his career, a heartbreaking tragedy was only days away. No one on that film set could have imagined how quickly everything was about to change. Chapter 5. The Tragedy That Changed Sammo Hung Forever. Just as Bruce Lee stood on the edge of worldwide fame, everything changed in a single day. The future looked brighter than ever. Enter the Dragon was ready to introduce Bruce Lee to millions of new fans across the globe. Years of sacrifice, rejection, and relentless hard work had finally brought him to the moment he had dreamed about. No one imagined that he would never live to see it. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee suddenly passed away at just 32 years old. According to the official reports, the cause was cerebral edema, a severe swelling of the brain that shocked the entire world. The news spread rapidly, leaving family, friends, and the martial arts community completely devastated. For Sammo Hung, it wasn't just the loss of a movie star. It was the loss of a close friend, someone he had trained with, worked beside, learned from, and deeply respected. Years later, Sammo admitted that Bruce's death was almost impossible to accept. Bruce still had so many dreams, so many ideas, and so many films he wanted to create. It felt as if the world had lost someone long before his time. The entire Hong Kong film industry fell into mourning. Studios paused their productions. Actors and stunt performers struggled to believe the heartbreaking news. Fans gathered outside theaters and film studios, hoping that somehow the reports were wrong. But they weren't. Bruce Lee was gone. Yet one difficult challenge still remained. Before his passing, Bruce had been working on another deeply personal project, Game of Death. The film was unfinished. Many important scenes had never been completed. The studio now faced an impossible question. How could anyone finish a Bruce Lee movie without Bruce Lee? Eventually, Sammo Hung was asked to help. Not because anyone could replace Bruce, no one could, but because Sammo understood Bruce's fighting style, his choreography, and the vision he wanted audiences to see. It became one of the most emotionally difficult projects of Sammo's career. Instead of working beside his friend, he was working with stunt doubles, lookalikes, old footage, and unfinished scenes. Every day reminded him that Bruce should have been standing there himself. The filmmakers used clever camera angles, careful editing, and creative techniques to complete the movie while respecting Bruce's remaining footage. It was a challenge unlike anything the industry had faced before. For Sammo, this work was never about money or fame. It was about responsibility. He believed Bruce Lee deserved to have his final work shared with the world, even if finishing that dream came with heartbreak. Looking back today, Sammo says Bruce's greatest legacy wasn't simply his incredible speed or his unforgettable fight scenes. It was his determination. Bruce refused to accept limits. He challenged traditions. He changed how martial arts were filmed. And he inspired an entire generation of actors, stunt performers, and filmmakers to think differently. That influence didn't end with Bruce's passing. It continued through people like Sammo Hung, who carried those lessons into every film they created. More than 50 years later, Sammo still speaks about Bruce with the same admiration, not because of the legend, but because of the man he personally knew, a loyal friend, a fearless artist, and someone whose impact could never be measured by a single movie. As the years passed, Sammo realized something important. The greatest way to honor Bruce Lee wasn't to repeat old rumors. It was to tell the truth. And that truth would become even more meaningful as fewer people remained who had actually witnessed those unforgettable years. Chapter 6. At 74, Sammo Hung finally tells the truth. More than 5 decades have passed since Bruce Lee left the world. Many of the people who worked beside him are no longer here. Others rarely speak about those unforgettable years. That is why Sammo Hung's memories have become so valuable. Today, at 74 years old, he is one of the last living legends who actually knew Bruce Lee. Not as a global icon, but as a friend, a co-worker, and a fellow martial artist. For years, people expected Sammo to tell dramatic stories. They wanted shocking secrets, arguments, fights, hidden rivalries. But every time Sammo looked back on Bruce Lee, his message stayed the same. The world got it wrong. According to Sammo, Bruce was nothing like the cold and angry character that many people imagined. Yes, he demanded excellence. Yes, he worked harder than almost anyone else. But behind the cameras, he was also friendly, funny, and surprisingly generous with the people around him. After difficult action scenes, Bruce often laughed with the stunt team. He shared ideas. He listened to suggestions. He wanted everyone involved in the film to succeed because he believed great movies were created by great teamwork. That side of Bruce rarely appeared in newspaper headlines. Instead, the media focused on gossip. Rumors spread much faster than the truth. Over time, those stories became accepted as fact. Sammo believes that is one of the biggest reasons Bruce Lee has often been misunderstood. People remember the legend, but they forget the person. As Sammo continued building his own career, he carried Bruce's lessons with him. He became one of Hong Kong's most respected action directors and choreographers, helping create unforgettable fight scenes that inspired a new generation of martial arts films. Even decades later, his work continued to reflect many of the ideas he had observed while working alongside Bruce Lee. Yet no matter how successful Sammo became, interviewers always returned to the same subject: Bruce Lee. At first, Sammo answered with only a few words, not because he wanted to hide anything, but because those memories were personal. As time passed, however, he realized something important. If the people who knew Bruce stayed silent, the rumors would become the only story left behind. That is why Sammo finally decided to speak more openly, not to create headlines, not to attract attention, but to protect the truth. He wanted younger generations to understand that Bruce Lee's greatest strength wasn't only his incredible speed, it was his mindset, his discipline, his endless desire to improve. Bruce believed there was always a better way to perform, a better way to train, a better way to tell a story through movement. That philosophy changed martial arts forever, and according to Sammo, it continues to inspire actors and fighters around the world today. Looking back now, Sammo says he doesn't think about Bruce as a celebrity. He remembers the man who smiled after a difficult scene, the friend who welcomed challenges instead of avoiding them, the artist who believed respect was more important than ego. Those are the memories Sammo wants the world to keep alive, not the false stories, not the endless rumors, but the truth. Because legends may inspire millions, but real friendships reveal the person behind the legend. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson Sammo Hung has shared after all these years. Bruce Lee wasn't remembered only because he was the fastest. He was remembered because he changed the lives of the people who knew him, and through them, he changed martial arts history forever. Chapter 7. The Legacy That Will Never Fade. More than 50 years have passed since Bruce Lee's final days, yet his influence has never disappeared. In fact, it has only grown stronger. New generations continue to discover his films. Young martial artists study his techniques. Actors still admire his screen presence. And filmmakers around the world continue to borrow ideas from the revolutionary style he introduced. But according to Sammo Hung, Bruce Lee's greatest legacy was never about being the strongest fighter. It was about changing the way people thought. Bruce challenged traditions. He questioned old methods. He refused to believe that martial arts had to stay trapped in the past. Instead, he combined speed, timing, realism, and philosophy into something the world had never seen before. Sammo says that lesson stayed with him throughout his entire career. Every time he choreographed a fight scene, every time he directed an action sequence, every time he stepped in front of the camera, a small part of Bruce Lee's influence was still there. Not because Sammo wanted to copy him, but because Bruce had taught everyone around him to think differently. That lesson became priceless. As the years passed, Sammo built an incredible career of his own. He became one of Hong Kong's most respected actors, directors, producers, and action choreographers. His work inspired countless action stars who followed. Yet despite all of his achievements, interviewers always returned to one question. What do you remember most about Bruce Lee? Sammo's answer never focused on fame. He never talked about money. He never spoke about Hollywood. Instead, he remembered the man behind the legend, the friend who smiled between takes, the martial artist who was always searching for a better way, the perfectionist who believed every movement should have meaning. Those memories mattered far more than the rumors that had filled newspapers for decades. That is exactly why Sammo decided to speak more openly in recent years. He understood that time changes everything. The people who truly knew Bruce Lee are becoming fewer with each passing year. If they do not tell the real story, someone else will replace it with fiction. Sammo believes history should be protected by truth, not gossip. Looking back now, he feels grateful that he had the chance to stand beside Bruce during one of the most important moments in martial arts history. He witnessed the discipline, the determination, the kindness, and the passion that millions of fans never had the opportunity to see. Those are the memories he hopes will live on. Because when future generations hear the name Bruce Lee, Sammo doesn't want them to remember only the flying kicks or the famous movies. He wants them to remember a man who inspired everyone around him to become better, a man who treated martial arts as an art form, a man who believed learning never truly ends. Perhaps that is why Bruce Lee's story still feels alive today. Legends don't survive because of myths. They survive because their actions continue to inspire people long after they are gone. And according to Sammo Hung, that is exactly what Bruce Lee accomplished. His greatest victory was never inside a movie. It was the lasting impact he left on the people who knew him, and on millions who never had the chance to meet him. As Sammo reflects on those unforgettable years, one message becomes clear. The rumors may have captured attention, but the truth has endured. And after more than 5 decades, the friendship between Bruce Lee and Sammo Hung remains one of the greatest stories in martial arts history. Chapter 8. The Final Truth About Bruce Lee. After hearing Sammo Hung's memories from across the years, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The greatest surprise isn't how fast Bruce Lee was. It isn't how talented he was. And it certainly isn't the old rumors that filled newspapers and magazines for decades. The biggest surprise is how different the real Bruce Lee was from the version many people imagined. For years, fans only saw the legend, the fearless fighter, the unbeatable martial artist, the international superstar. But Sammo Hung saw something completely different. He saw the man behind the fame, a man who constantly pushed himself to improve. A friend who respected talent wherever he found it. A perfectionist who believed every scene could always be better. According to Sammo, Bruce never stopped learning. Even after becoming famous, he continued studying different fighting styles, experimenting with new ideas, and challenging himself to improve. That mindset inspired everyone who worked beside him. That is the Bruce Lee Sammo wants the world to remember. Not the myths, not the gossip, not the imaginary rivalries. The real person. Looking back now, Sammo understands something many people missed. Greatness isn't measured only by trophies or movie tickets. It is measured by the lives you change. Bruce Lee changed martial arts forever. He changed action movies. He changed the way actors trained. He inspired athletes, filmmakers, and performers across the world. His influence reached far beyond Hong Kong, far beyond Hollywood, and far beyond his own lifetime. For Sammo, the greatest honor was simply being part of that incredible journey. Working beside Bruce taught him lessons that no classroom could ever teach. He learned discipline, he learned patience, he learned that success comes from thousands of small improvements made every single day. Those lessons stayed with him throughout his career. Even decades later, people can still see Bruce's influence in many of Sammo's action scenes and fight choreography. The experience of working together shaped the way Sammo approached filmmaking for the rest of his life. Today, many of the people who personally knew Bruce Lee are no longer here. Every year, fewer first-hand stories remain. That makes Sammo's memories more valuable than ever. They remind us that history should be told by those who lived it, not by rumors repeated over time. Perhaps that is why Sammo finally chose to speak more openly. Not to create another headline, not to shock the world, but to protect the truth before it disappears. Because once the people who witnessed history are gone, only their stories remain. And if those stories are never told, myths can easily replace reality. That is exactly what Sammo wanted to prevent. His message is simple. Bruce Lee was not his enemy. He was not a rival. He was a trusted friend, a brilliant martial artist, and one of the hardest working people Sammo had ever met. That truth means far more than any rumor ever could. More than 50 years after Bruce Lee's passing, his legacy continues to inspire millions. His films are still watched, his philosophy is still studied, his determination still motivates people to push beyond their limits. And thanks to voices like Sammo Hung's, future generations have the chance to know the real man, not just the legend. Maybe that is Bruce Lee's greatest victory. Not that he became famous, but that his character continues to inspire people who never even met him. And as Sammo Hung reflects on a friendship that changed his life forever, one final lesson stands above everything else. True legends are remembered not because of the rumors told about them. They are remembered because of the truth left behind by the people who knew them best.